I'm going to be talking about the pharmaceutical sales industry and how impactful and dynamic it can be on the world as a whole, not just because of its career opportunity, but also because of the organizational behavioral principles that it brings to light. So jumping straight into it, we're going to talk about the three main principles. We're going to talk about commitment to an organization. We're going to also talk about goal setting, or managing goal setting. And then finally, we're going to talk about influence. We're going to talk about why all of these are important. But before we do that, we're going to talk about three main leaders as well. Albert Bourla, Pascal Soriot, Robert A. Bradwell. All of these are super impactful, influential leaders in the industry of pharmaceutical sales. So let's go ahead and jump straight in. We're going to talk about organizational commitment. What commitment or organizational commitment is basically engagement and loyalty that an employee feels for that organizational culture. What that means is basically what they're willing to do for the company and how committed they are to that company. Some things that are incredibly important to me that relate to organizational commitment are going to be things like shared values, shared goals, as well as just overall goal and value alignment between the employee and the company. This is actually highlighted later in a case study, but I think that it's crucial to maintain these targeted goals and to set these goals. And by setting these goals, you're able to be committed to that organization. But jumping straight into Dimensions of Organizational Commitment by Helen P. Guldner, writing for Administrative Science Quarterly. This is the case study, which basically just highlights what's called dimensions. So it refers to dimensions of organizational commitment as being different aspects of a company that an employee feels bound to. What that kind of means is basically that employees aren't inherently going to be attracted or committed to the organizational as a whole. What ends up happening is they're more attracted to the aspect of the organization, or the proper term is the dimensions of that organization. So a good example is, let's say there's an employee of a diverse nature, and then they want to work for a company that also openly supports diversity. Some organizations aren't going to openly support it. Whether they actually support it or not is irrelevant, but that open support or open value alignment will make it more attractive for that employee to want to work for that organization. Since that value alignment will exist, that will allow the employee to be more committed to that company. So the study also highlights that ultimately employees that have more commitment are the employees that have more alignment with their values and their goals. You see a company that has the same goals as you, you're most likely going to commit more to that company because you align and you are committed to those goals and expectations. So the next principle is managing the goal and the goal setting process. So pharmaceutical sales is incredibly important when it comes to setting goals, as metric system is literally one of the prime motivating factors for employees for the pharmaceutical organizations. Following a proper framework is key. The SMART, or the SMART framework, is the specific one that is most beneficial, which is basically just specific, measurable, attainable, results-oriented, and time-bound. What this is basically just a very clear framework for people who are in the pharmaceutical sales industry to follow to be able to meet those reasonable and achievable goals. So there's multiple steps. The first step to goal setting is obviously set the goal. The second one is to promote the goal. The third one is to stay committed to the goal and provide support and feedback to that goal if you're a manager and an employee is working for you. The final step is creating an action plan. So you want to create an action plan to those set goals. All of these are going to be really beneficial when it comes to managing the goal setting process. The case study that I used is called The Motivational Benefits of Goal Setting by Gary P. Latham, executive at the Academy of Management. He basically highlights the fact that setting very high goals prolongs that effort. What that means is by setting what may seem to be an unrealistic goal is actually more beneficial to the goal setting process. Basically, they're going to show more productivity, more commitment, more overall effort working within that company because they have more of a prolonged effort. Basically, if they have a prolonged effort, they're going to want to stay with the organization even longer, which means they're going to build that tenureship, which leads to inevitable success. So the third and final principle is effectively influencing others. So influencing others is basically just altering the behavior or the behavioral tendencies of another individual other than yourself. In pharmaceutical sales, it's incredibly important to master this as a skill, as if you don't, you can walk over the line and potentially have what's called negative influence. So that's why it's important to understand and master the difference between hard and soft influence. So basically, the hard tactics would be more of a professional setting when you utilize your managerial or your leadership position to make a political decision, oftentimes when it comes to dealing with either marketing or working with another organization. Soft tactics are going to be more for clientele, meaning building longevity or having more of a relationship with clients. That will allow customers to consistently buy from you. Another important factor when it comes to influence is credibility. Once you build that credibility, it will allow for you to be honest and transparent, which allows for more individuals to want to buy your product. This is key when it comes to selling medicine or pharmaceutical products as a whole. The case study for this is called Influence Tactics for Effective Adaptive Selling. This is Richard G. McFarland writing for the Journal of Marketing. He basically highlights the importance of having an adaptive sales tactic or an adaptive mindset when it comes to selling products to individuals. As if you have a one-size-fits-all mentality whenever you sell your products, that's not going to be a good thing, because it's important to know by asking the right questions what your client needs, what is the right product for them. So this is when it's important to be ethical when you're dealing in pharmaceutical sales. So jumping straight into the leaders or the most impactful leaders in this industry, the first one is Albert Bourla. He's the CEO of Pfizer. He can be remembered for getting us through COVID-19 by making and effectively distributing the COVID-19 vaccine. Pascal Soriot is the CEO of AstraZeneca, who can also be remembered by allowing for the accessibility at a wide scale of another type of COVID-19 vaccine. And the third and final leader is Robert A. Bradway, the CEO of Amgen. Now, he can be remembered for creating treatments for several types of diseases, be it from cardiovascular diseases all the way to cancer. So all of these individuals have something very, very in common. They have done something, they have used their goal setting processes to allow them to achieve what may seem to be impossible, remarkable goals, allowing for the distribution of product and success in this industry to a wide scale of individuals. So the do's and don'ts for this are very important, as the do's are basically being ethical, building relationships, and staying informed on your products. This is important for transparency. Some of the don'ts are high pressure tactics, forcing your products on them. Don't ignore the feedback, and complacency. The pharmaceutical industry evolves rapidly, and don't stick to outdated methods. But all in all, this is a very, very fun industry.